All right, so get ready to dive deep today because we are talking all things tea.
Tea.
You know it, but like really getting into it.
Yeah.
We have got these Wikipedia excerpts, and I am already fascinated.
Well, and you think you know tea, and then you find out that there's like a whole tea family tree
Right.
with like ancient origins, surprise relatives,
Yeah.
a little bit of plant drama.
Right. Like I literally started my day with a cup, and now I'm like questioning everything I thought I knew about it.
Yeah.
Like, for example, I just always assumed that anything herbal, like chamomile, peppermint, all of that, I was like, yeah, that's tea. But the article's very clear.
Yeah.
True tea, it's got to be from the Camellia sinensis plant.
Right.
Everything else, tisane, apparently.
Yeah, it's a common misconception.
Okay.
But it's interesting because I feel like that focus on Camellia sinensis actually kind of speaks to the journey that tea has been on.
Okay.
Because if you think about it, that's one plant, right?
Yeah.
And it's native to East Asia, and yet this one plant has become like this beverage that's enjoyed on literally every continent.
Wow.
Like it's a global
That
phenomenon.
is so true.
Yeah.
So take us back, like all the way back.
Okay.
How does this happen?
So it's a tale worth savoring.
Okay.
And it all starts, as far back as we can tell, in China, right?
Yeah.
And now you've probably heard the legend of Emperor Shennong discovering tea in 2737 BC.
Right. The myth.
Turns out it is a total myth.
Okay.
The real story, or at least according to the very earliest records that we have, it's way more intriguing.
Okay. Spill the tea.
So picture this. 3rd century Chinese physician named Hua Tuo. He's writing this medical text, and in it, he describes tea as a drink that can make one think better.
Ooh.
So, like, right from the get-go.
Right.
This wasn't just a drink. This was something that had, like, almost like a medicinal property associated with it.
Wow. So it's like even the origin story is not this like aha
Yeah.
moment. It's like this gradual realization. Oh, this makes me feel kind of good. Maybe I should drink this more often.
Exactly. Yeah.
Interesting.
Like, it speaks to how our understanding of what we consume sort of evolves alongside, alongside our knowledge.
Right.
And speaking of understanding, it gets even more fascinating when you start looking at the plant itself, right? Because did you know that there are 2 main types of tea,
No.
each with its own distinct lineage?
What?
So we're talking Chinese small leaf, and we're talking Assam from India with its larger leaves.
Wait, hold on. So like separate lineages?
Okay.
As in they weren't even hanging out at the same evolutionary family reunions?
Precisely. Yeah, our source points to genetic differences so profound that they suggest that these 2 types of tea diverged something like 22,000 years ago,
Get out of here.
which, to put that into perspective, that's like longer than agriculture has existed.
22,000 years. That's like the OG beverage.
Right.
That's wild.
It really is.
So does that mean then that,
It gets even better.
okay.
That means that the tea that we know and love today is very likely the result of hybridization and crossbreeding.
Wow. So, for example, Darjeeling,
Yeah.
right? Globally prized tea,
Yeah.
likely originated from this hybridization between the Chinese small leaf and those Assam large leaf variety.
Wow, so it's like this whole family
Yes.
coming together.
It's this incredible tapestry of tea varieties, and it's all thanks to like thousands of years of natural selection, human intervention, and let's be honest, a little bit of plant family drama.
This is already blowing my mind, and we haven't even left Asia yet.
I know, right?
But something tells me that these little Camellia sinensis leaves, they were destined for bigger things.
Oh, yeah.
So how did this ancient drink, how did it conquer the globe?
So it's a story of trade, religion, and, dare I say it, a little bit of opportunism.
Okay.
Imagine, 16th century Portuguese priests encounter tea in China for the first time.
Whoa.
And they're like,
What is in this? This is amazing.
wait, we need to bring this back with us.
Yes.
This is like liquid gold.
Yeah. They were like, some of the original tea influencers, right? They brought this taste of the East back to this whole new audience.
Right,
Of course, it took a little time for tea to really catch on in Europe.
right.
That's where the Dutch East India Company comes in.
Okay.
They saw the potential, right? This exotic beverage. And
Yeah.
they got the ball rolling, establishing those trade routes, shipping tea to all these new markets.
So we went from like this curiosity to like, ooh, I've got to have my afternoon tea. Like it's a hot commodity.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And as the demand grew, so did tea's influence, right?
Yo.
It's not just a drink anymore, it's a status symbol.
Wow.
form of currency in some places. Even like it was a catalyst for some major historical events. Like,
What? Tea, like, changed the course of history? What are you talking about?
well, okay, so remember that whole trade deficit thing that the article was mentioning?
Yeah.
The one that Britain had with China because they just could not get enough tea? Let's just say that it led to some, shall we say, creative solutions.
Okay, creative solution. Don't leave me hanging. Like,
Uh,
what are we talking here? Did they start paying for tea in scones? What happened?
Again, more dramatic than that.
What?
Opium.
Whoa.
Yeah, so the Opium Wars, like those series of conflicts in the 19th century, they were sparked in part by this very tea trade imbalance.
Get out of here.
It's true.
So, like, I like to think that my little cup of tea every morning is, bringing a little bit of peace to my day.
Right?
But, I mean, it's got this whole intense history.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a dark side to tea's global journey, for sure.
Wow. From, like, those priests having their first sips
Yeah.
to, like, international conflict.
I know.
That's wild.
That's a wild ride.
Okay, so tea has conquered the world.
It has.
But let's be real. It ain't one size fits all.
Right.
So I'm looking at this part of the article talking about white tea, yellow tea, green tea, oolong, black tea. Like, what is going on here?
So the key difference maker here is oxidation.
Oxidation.
Yeah, so you see, after those tea leaves were harvested,
Okay.
they start to react with the air,
Okay.
and that changes their flavor.
Oh, interesting.
And the longer they're exposed to the air, the more they oxidize.
Gotcha.
So think of it like controlled browning, but for tea.
Okay, so, like, more oxidation equals bolder flavor.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
It's a spectrum, right?
Okay.
So on one end, you've got your white tea barely oxidized at all,
Okay.
super delicate in flavor.
Yeah.
Then you've got your yellow tea, which is similar to green tea, but it has this extra step in the process that gives it a smoother, mellower taste.
Okay.
Then we hit green tea.
Okay.
So those leaves, they're heated right after they're picked
Oh, wow.
to stop that oxidation process.
Interesting.
So it preserves that bright green color
Yeah.
and that grassy, slightly vegetal flavor.
Which is probably why people are always like, green tea, it's so healthy.
Right. Yes,
But we'll get to the sciencey stuff.
we'll get there. We'll get there.
Okay, so then what's next? So we've got white, yellow, green,
Next up is oolong.
oolong.
Oolong is great because it's like this fascinating middle ground.
Okay.
So oolong teas, they're intentionally bruised and they're allowed to partially oxidize.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it's this controlled oxidation that gives them this remarkable range of flavor. So you get anything from like floral and fruity to toasty and nutty.
Yeah.
It can be as light as a green tea or as robust as a black tea.
Wow, so it's like the adventurous one. It's like, I'm going
Mhm.
to try a little bit of everything.
Exactly. It runs the gamut.
Wow.
So then, if we keep going down this oxidation path, we reach the crowd favorite, right? Oh, black tea.
Black tea.
The black tea. It undergoes a longer oxidation process,
Right.
results in those rich, dark leaves,
Yeah.
and that bolder, more robust flavor.
That's my go-to. I got to say
Yeah.
black tea all the way.
It's a classic.
Yeah.
Though it's funny to think of it as like fully oxidized, right?
Yeah.
A lot of cultures actually call it red tea after the color of the brewed tea.
Oh, that makes sense.
Right.
I've heard that. Yeah.
And speaking of colors, have you ever heard of post-fermented tea?
Post-fermented. Like, it's had time to think about it.
Yeah, like it's the aged cheese of the tea world.
What? Okay.
Yeah.
Tell me more about this.
Okay, so pu'er is like a prime example.
Pu'er. Okay.
So it starts out life like a green tea, but then it undergoes this additional fermentation process.
Okay.
And this can often last for months or even years.
Years? Are you serious?
I'm serious. There are teas out there with more life experience than we have.
This is blowing my mind.
It's wild, but yeah, it's all about developing those unique, earthy, complex flavors.
Okay.
And just like a fine wine, pu'er, it can actually improve with age,
Okay, so now I'm picturing like a sommelier, but for tea,
right?
coming out and they're like, and this pu'er has notes of forest floor. Okay, I'll stop.
Okay.
But this is amazing.
Yeah, it's a whole world.
So we've talked origins, history, the family drama, all the varieties.
It's a lot.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
But what about like the actual nitty-gritty, like how does this stuff affect our bodies?
Ah, the million-dollar question, right?
Yeah, because people, they say all kinds of things about tea.
I know, right?
Like it can do everything.
It's true. It's
Well,
great.
what does science actually have to say?
Well, that's what we're here to find out,
Oh,
right?
exactly.
So people attribute all these health benefits.
I know, like every other week there's a new headline.
Right, tea can do this, tea can do that. It's like,
It's going to solve all our problems.
right, exactly.
World peace. It's all tea.
Yeah, exactly.
So, okay, so there's got to be some truth to it, though,
So
right?
here's the thing, right?
Yeah.
Tea does contain compounds that have, sparked some serious scientific interest.
Okay.
But it's really important to note that a lot of those, those really grand health claims,
Yeah.
they're based on preliminary research. Like we need more robust evidence before we start, making any definitive conclusions.
Okay, so what can we definitively say about the science of tea? So, spill the tea. What's the science say? There's got to be something to this beverage, right? People have been brewing it for centuries.
Oh, absolutely. Well, for one, we can't forget about our friend caffeine.
Right, of course.
Depending on the type of tea and how it's brewed, you're looking at anywhere from like 30 to 90 milligrams per cup.
Okay, so that explains a lot about my tea choices.
Right.
But what about all those other compounds we hear about, like antioxidants and polyphenols and all those things that sound very sciencey?
Right. There's a lot going on in just one cup. Our source specifically calls out polyphenols, which actually make up a pretty significant portion of tea's chemical makeup.
Okay.
And these polyphenols, they're thought to have antioxidant properties,
Which means
which means, potential health benefits, right? Like boosting the immune system, protecting your cells from damage,
all the good stuff.
all the good stuff. But, and our source is very clear about this, the research is still in its early stages.
Ah, okay.
So there's just not enough conclusive evidence to say that drinking tea, even in large amounts, is going to, have a major impact on your health.
Okay, so no miracle cure,
Right.
just a delicious drink with a long history.
Exactly.
Darn. Although, you know what? This whole thing about tea, like making one think better, even from those earliest records, that's got to count for something, right?
Well, and while we can't definitively call tea a brain booster, that historical perspective, it does kind of line up with what we know about caffeine today.
True.
Like it increases your alertness.
Yeah,
Some people find it really helps them focus.
it's true.
So those ancient tea drinkers, they might have been onto something, even if their understanding was more, shall we say, experiential than scientific.
I like that. So maybe not a brain booster, but a brain nudger.
A brain nudge, I like that.
Yeah, there you go. We can use that.
Trademark that.
Yes. All right. Well, this deep dive has been incredible.
It has been fun.
We've gone from ancient origins to global phenomena, from plant families to caffeine kicks.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. But there's one thing I don't want us to forget, and that's the cultural significance of tea.
Yes. And you really can't talk about tea without recognizing how much it transcends borders, how it brings people together.
It's true.
You think about those elaborate tea ceremonies in Japan,
Yes.
the cozy ritual of afternoon tea in Britain.
Oh, and don't forget about Russia.
Yeah.
They've got their samovars and those really cool glasses with the metal holders.
Yes.
Or India, where tea's practically the national drink. Spiced, milky, sometimes even enjoyed right there on the street.
It's amazing, right?
It really is that, like, the same leaves can be prepared and enjoyed in so many different ways.
It really speaks to, I think, the unifying power of tradition and shared experience.
Yeah.
Like from a simple cup to a cultural cornerstone, tea has really, it's steeped itself into the heart of humanity.
I love that. This whole journey has really opened my eyes, not just to the facts about tea, but to its place in the world.
It makes you wonder, like, how is globalization and cultural exchange, how are those things going to continue to shape our relationship with tea in the future?
Now, there's a question to ponder with your next cup.
Right.
And on that note, dear listener, we'll leave you to enjoy your next brew with a fresh perspective.
Cheers to that.
It's been a true deep dive into the wonderful world of tea. Until next time, happy steeping.